It all began as one of British television's most heartwarming love stories. Ben Shephard, the charming, grounded presenter, loved for his warmth on Good Morning Britain and Tipping Point, had long been admired for balancing his demanding TV career with an unwavering devotion to his wife, Annie. They weren't the flashy celebrity couple. They were the real ones, the pair that seemed to hold everything together quietly, gracefully, away from the headlines. But in recent months, whispers have begun to spread. Whispers suggesting that even the most genuine love stories can fracture under the weight of time, distance, and unspoken emotion. Ben met Annie long before his television fame reached its peak. Back then, he was still a rising broadcaster, a man with boundless energy and big dreams. Annie, a talented and private woman, preferred to stay out of the spotlight, focusing instead on family and creative pursuits. Their love grew quietly, built on shared laughter, early morning coffees, and the simple understanding that fame meant little compared to connection. For over 2 decades, they were seen as one of television's most stable couples. Ben often spoke about Annie with warmth and respect, calling her his anchor, the one person who grounded him when life became chaotic. She supported his long filming days, his early wake-up calls, and the endless demands of live television. Together, they raised 2 sons, creating a home life that Ben often described as the one thing that keeps me sane. Fans adored them for being relatable. No scandals, no drama, just mutual love and quiet strength. But as Ben's career blossomed, cracks began to form. Not through betrayal or fame, but through distance. Ben's work took him across the country, filming long hours for ITV, fronting charity events, and anchoring major shows. Annie, by contrast, cherished her privacy. The more Ben appeared on screen, the more Annie retreated from it. Their worlds, once perfectly aligned, began to drift apart. To the public, Ben and Annie seemed unshakable, but behind closed doors, things weren't as simple. An insider close to the family revealed that the couple had been living separate lives emotionally for months. Ben's friends described him as devoted but distracted. He had become a man torn between 2 worlds, the public figure adored by millions, and the husband who feared he was losing the one person who had known him before fame. Ben's never stopped loving Annie, but he doesn't know how to reach her anymore. They're both hurting, but they're both too proud to say it out loud. As the emotional distance grew, Annie began to spend more time away from London, focusing on personal projects and visiting old friends. For someone who had always been Ben's quiet support, it was a telling shift. And then came the photos, subtle but noticed. Ben attending a charity gala without Annie, a red carpet event where his smile looked rehearsed, a weekend segment filmed in Cornwall where he spoke fondly about missing home but never mentioned his wife's name. Fans began to ask questions, but Ben, ever the professional, brushed off speculation with his signature charm. Yet those who know him best said something had changed. He was quieter. His eyes, once bright and boyish, seemed weighed down by reflection. In interviews, Ben often credits Annie for keeping him grounded, but lately that grounding seemed to slip away. Friends have said the turning point came during a particularly hectic filming period last year. Ben was juggling Tipping Point, Ninja Warrior UK, and filling in on Good Morning Britain, sometimes waking at 3 a.m. and returning home after midnight. Annie, meanwhile, was left to manage the household, the boys' schedules, and her own quiet frustrations. Annie began to feel like she'd lost her husband to the screen. He was there physically, but emotionally, he was somewhere else entirely. There wasn't one explosive argument, just the slow, painful erosion of connection. The kind of distance that creeps in between 2 people who still care deeply, but no longer speak the same language. At gatherings, Ben would often mention work. Annie would smile politely but stay silent. Their friends noticed the way she would turn away when conversation drifted toward ITV or showbiz, as though those worlds had already stolen enough of her husband. Reports began to surface earlier this year that Annie had been spending increasing amounts of time in their countryside home while Ben remained in London for work. At first, it was presented as a mutual arrangement, but whispers suggested something deeper. According to someone close to the couple, a quiet confrontation finally took place one evening, one that changed everything. It wasn't anger that filled the room, but sadness. Years of exhaustion, unspoken fears, and emotional distance finally caught up with them. Annie reportedly told Ben that she felt invisible, that fame had taken the man she loved and turned him into someone who smiled for cameras but rarely truly saw her anymore. Ben, devastated, allegedly tried to reassure her. He promised more time, fewer projects, and weekends devoted entirely to family. But it was too late. Annie wasn't angry. She was just done waiting. She'd spent years holding everything together. This was her moment to finally put herself first. That evening, she packed a small bag and quietly left for the countryside. Ben, stunned, didn't chase after her, not because he didn't want to, but because he understood. Sometimes, love isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go. In the weeks that followed, fans began to notice subtle changes in Ben's demeanor on screen. He was still professional, still kind, but there was a noticeable melancholy in his tone. Even his co-hosts on Good Morning Britain seemed to sense it, offering quiet smiles and lighter jokes to ease the mood. When asked in one interview about balancing work and family, Ben simply said, "It's a constant effort, and sometimes you get it wrong." It was a rare moment of vulnerability from someone known for his optimism. Viewers flooded social media with messages of support, unaware of the quiet heartbreak unfolding behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Annie remained out of the public eye, focusing on her own projects. She was spotted at a local art gallery opening, calm and composed, wearing no wedding ring. Her friends described her as peaceful, but changed. She wasn't bitter, just ready to heal. She reportedly told one friend, "I'll always care for Ben, but sometimes love means knowing when the story has run its course." Her grace throughout this painful transition has been described as nothing short of extraordinary. The story of Ben and Annie Shephard isn't a scandal or betrayal. It's about something far more universal, the quiet heartbreak that happens when two people simply grow apart. There are no villains here, only two souls who tried their best and learned that even the strongest bonds can shift with time. Ben's fans continue to hope for reconciliation. Some believe that love like theirs doesn't simply vanish, it transforms, waits, and perhaps one day finds its way back. But for now, both seemed focused on healing. Ben, the man with the warmest smile on British television, is learning to live with silence. And Annie, the woman who stood by him through every triumph, is learning to stand on her own again. Their story reminds us that even the most admired couples face unseen struggles. That love, no matter how deep, sometimes asks us to let go so that both hearts can breathe again. Ben and Annie Shephard's journey isn't over. It's simply entering a quieter, more reflective chapter. And perhaps that's where the truest kind of love is found. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because in the world of television and life beyond the camera, stories like Ben and Annie's remind us of what it truly means to love, to lose, and to begin again. Let us know in the comments. Do you believe true love can survive distance and time? Or is letting go sometimes the bravest act of all?